Alright, let's talk about the book of Ezra. And this book feels very different from the ones before it, because Ezra is not about collapse anymore. Collapse already happened. The city was destroyed. The temple was burned. The people were exiled. Ezra is about what comes after disaster, not the emotion of loss, but the hard work of starting again. Ezra begins with something unexpected. A foreign king, not an Israelite, not a believer, a Persian king named Cyrus. And he makes a decree. He says the people of Judah can go home. They can return to Jerusalem. They can rebuild the temple. This is written clearly in the book. And it matters because Ezra starts by showing this truth. Restoration doesn't always come from where you expect. Sometimes it comes through systems you don't control. The first group of people returns. Not everyone, only those willing. And that detail matters. Restoration is always optional. Not everyone wants to rebuild. They come back to ruins. Broken walls, burned buildings, no security. And the very first thing they rebuild is not their houses. They rebuild the altar. Before comfort, before safety, before stability. Worship first. That tells you what Ezra cares about. Then they lay the foundation of the temple. And the book pauses here, because something emotional happens. Some people cry. Some people celebrate. At the same time, the older generation remembers the old temple. The younger generation only sees the future. Both reactions are recorded. Ezra doesn't judge either one. Here's the philosophy hidden in that moment. Restoration always feels mixed. You grieve what you lost while trying to build something new. That's normal. As construction begins, opposition shows up. Local enemies discourage the builders. They threaten them. They accuse them. They create fear. And eventually, the work stops. Not because God failed, but because people got tired. That part is important. Years pass. Nothing moves. And then prophets speak again. Haggai and Zechariah. They don't give strategy. They confront priorities. They ask, why are you living comfortably while God's house lies in ruins? That wakes people up. The work resumes. The temple is completed. It's smaller than before. Less impressive. But it's real. And the people dedicate it with joy. Ezra records this carefully. Because this book is not about glory. It's about faithfulness. Then Ezra himself enters the story. And this is the second half of the book. Ezra is not a builder. He's a teacher, a priest, a man deeply committed to the law. Ezra comes to Jerusalem years later and discovers a serious problem. The people rebuilt the temple, but their lives didn't change. They adopted surrounding cultures, ignored boundaries, compromised values. The outside looked restored. The inside wasn't. Ezra reacts strongly. He tears his clothes. He prays publicly. He confesses sin, not just personal, collective, leadership-level repentance. This is uncomfortable to read, because Ezra doesn't soften it. He makes people face what they avoided. And the book records that confrontation honestly. The people respond. Not perfectly, but sincerely. They agree to separate from practices that were destroying their identity. This is not about ethnicity. It's about loyalty. Ezra is protecting the future. Here's the core lesson of the book. Rebuilding structures is easier than rebuilding character. Ezra ends without celebration. No victory parade. No perfect ending. Just commitment and accountability. That's intentional because Ezra is realistic. Restoration is not instant. It's ongoing. Ezra shows 3 phases clearly: return, rebuild, reform, and each phase has resistance. Here's why this book matters today. People rebuild careers after failure, relationships after betrayal, faith after burnout. But many stop halfway. They rebuild the outside and ignore the inside. Ezra warns against that. It says, if values don't change, collapse will repeat. For a modern example, you see this when companies rebrand without fixing culture, or when someone changes jobs but keeps the same habits. The structure changes. The pattern doesn't. Ezra teaches that restoration needs truth. Not comfort, not denial, honest alignment. And here's something hopeful. Ezra proves that even after total collapse, starting again is possible. But it won't look like before. And that's okay. Ezra doesn't promise ease. It promises direction. If 2 Chronicles asks, how could this have been avoided? Ezra asks, how do we rebuild without repeating it? That's the book of Ezra. Quiet, practical, demanding, but necessary.